All right, hello everybody. Can I go back and do that again? Nope, already recording. Welcome to the Social Media What Blab. This week we are going to be talking about Twitter Part 2. Last week, if you were with us or if you weren't with us, I guess we still covered the same thing. Um, we basically did a walkthrough on Twitter to just show what everything in Twitter looks like. So you've got the account, what do all these buttons and everything mean? So this week, what we were hoping to cover, and I'm hoping it's a little bit more Q&A, is now that I have the account, I know where to click on the screen. What the heck do I do with this platform? So that's what we're looking at covering today. I am going to open Twitter in another window here, and I can jump over on that screen if need be. So that's what we got planned here. And my co-host this week is Alexis. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Put you on the spot.
You there?
Yep, I'm there. You froze too on my end, but I think you're still good.
You froze on my end, so.
So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, cool. Hi guys, I'm Alexis, and I'm with X37 Adventures, and I'm also on the conference committee for ACCT, which, if you're new to our industry, is the Association for Challenge Course Technology. And so Ed and I know each other through ACCT, and I'm excited to be here as a moderator.
Nice, thank you. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Ed Kaplan. I took on social media about 3 years ago at the same conference that Alexis was talking about, learned a lot about it, was very against social media, and now I help a lot of challenge courses and places like that kind of find their way through starting on social media and finding a way to have social media presence, and in some case actually get to the marketing side. So thank you guys for joining us. I see Tom here, and we have somebody else in the room, Tech Dad. Excellent. So for you guys, I'll look to you guys as a resource here. Every week we meet at Wednesday at about the same time, and this is a forum for those that know pretty much next to nothing about social media, and giving them a forum to learn. And I see both of you guys work with social media, so that after they learn a little bit, we can send them your way for more of the specific, maybe advanced stuff. So just so I'm not making any assumptions, would the two of you guys be willing to put three of you now? Welcome in here, Vincent. Nice. What is your familiarity with Twitter? So one being that you have the account so that you can be here, and 5 being that you could probably do a whole seminar all day on all the ins and outs of Twitter and how to social media market. Where would you say that your level of expertise is? And you can answer too, Alexis, if you want.
Well, while we're letting the guys type, I am. Twitter is not my favorite platform. Instagram definitely is one of my favorites, and YouTube, and that's mostly because I'm a photographer and a videographer, so those two platforms really fit my needs. And Twitter just hasn't tickled my fancy yet, so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about how I might be able to use it for my business and also just socially.
Excellent. And I think that is the best place to start. So Thomas, you like going by Thomas, Tom? I always feel I think names are important, even though I can never remember them. So that at least I try calling people by what they want to be called, not making stuff up. And then also we have in the room BMC Talent. So whoever you are, if you want to throw your first name in the chat there too, Thomas Clark, that works for me. So Thomas Clark, you could probably be doing this blab, and definitely you have more skills than I do. Like I said, I try and help people just not be so afraid of these outlets and get started. And Alexis, with what you were mentioning, that's exactly where I was until I started on Blab. I knew about Twitter. Let's see. I hate using the term stalker, but in some ways that's what I was doing on Twitter, was that I had my account and I followed other people, and I would just watch and see what was going on, and had no desire to interact with anyone else. But then again,
I call that lurking more than stalking.
Yes, lurking. I lurked a lot on Blab before I got started also. And one of the things that some people either here live or in the chat, you might be familiar with Bonnie L. Frank, who I've started to follow more since I've been on Blab. And one of the things I saw her say in a Periscope was, and this is kind of a little bit of background before we get into more of Twitter, is that if you're thinking about putting your business on social media, start with 2 outlets that you feel comfortable with. And I agree with that, and that's something I've been saying for years, is that I see people say, all right, I need to get my business on social media marketing. Social media. I've been told by somebody I need to do this. And one of the first things I always say is, well, what outlets are you currently on as a user, and what are you familiar with? We can start looking at demographics to decide where your client base is, and that's a good chunk of it too. But I think another big chunk of it is what you're familiar with. So Alexis, you mentioned that, you mentioned kind of both things, that Twitter might not be the best outlet for photography if you're doing a lot of photography. Mm-hmm. That being said, there are tools in that I do want to get into today, and that's when I make the notes, so to remember to come back to it, of using if this then that with Twitter and Instagram, so that you can still be using Twitter, starting to build a following, and putting up content that is something that people are going to be interested in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I look at it, and that's why we're doing the Blab last week and this week, is let's not worry about marketing yet. We will get there. Let's worry about, how do I as an individual use Twitter? What should I be doing on Twitter? And then once we understand that, and we understand how the platform works and how we consume the platform just as a user, then when it comes time to say, should my business be on Twitter, whether it's analytics or other things that say yes, we have an idea of what works or doesn't work. I would say the platform I'm most familiar with as a user is Facebook. I've been on that for 7 or 8 years now, but only as a marketer for 3 years. But there are things that marketers do and companies do on Facebook that cause me to actually go and unfollow them, because I'm realizing that they are not there to add any value to my life. They are there to sell me a product, and I'm done with that, and I unfollow them and they leave. And I think that happens on Twitter also, because businesses are not taking the time to learn what Twitter's all about. So with that in mind, Alexis, I'm going to use you as my Q&A guinea pig / if anybody else, who else do we have in the room? Oh, we got more people coming in and out. See some people, I think there's some technical things going, because I think some people are refreshing, coming in and out. So again, if anybody has a question about Twitter, let's start for the first 15 minutes or here so, talking more about how to use Twitter as a user. If those questions kind of dry up, then we can move into more of the marketing side of Twitter. So Alexis, when you say that you struggle a little bit with Twitter as itself, what do you see when you think of Twitter and using it as a user, not for your business? What comes to mind? Like, what are some of the, as somebody that doesn't use Twitter on a regular basis, what does Twitter appear to be to you?
First of all, it's a lot of text, which isn't a bad thing. It's just one of those things that doesn't really appeal to me as a user.
Okay. So yes, it is heavily text-based and has been. I mean, the whole 140 characters thing. So we are going to see more text. Okay. All right. And have you noticed at all, I don't know when the last time you jumped on, have you noticed a change in that? So that was the perception going in. Have you seen that to be pretty much true, or are you seeing more images and other forms pop up on Twitter lately?
More images, but also it, like you were saying about Facebook and specific companies pushing products and things, I've seen a whole lot of that on Twitter, and it just bugs me. Yeah. I haven't been hanging out on Facebook as much lately either, because of the reasons you said, and just the platform itself of how it's presented isn't my favorite thing. So that's what has kept me away from Twitter.
I would say that that part of that kept me away from Twitter also, is just that I'm not a big reader in life in general. So if you're going to put a platform that I have to read everything on, that kept me away. And the reason I bring that up, and I want to try and go over some of the perceptions versus what's going on. If you look at we both know Michelle Cummings. You know, if you look, she's starting to use pictures. Okay, Keeler Gardens. You know, if we look, there are fewer and fewer texts on there, and it's turning into a lot like what we see on Facebook. And that's because both marketers and people that use Twitter have realized that, yeah, if all we're going to do is put up text, it's very easy just to go scroll on by and move on to the next thing. So I think that has changed quite a bit. As far as content, as far as what you've seen as what people are communicating on Twitter, what were some of your perceptions, both, you know, before trying to use it a little bit and once on it, that you've seen or felt before you got on it?
I've seen way too many ads personally, and that just bugs me. And I know that part of that is who I follow and what's being put into my feed, and I have a little bit of control over that. But it still isn't my favorite thing. So
yeah, I was just scrolling here to see how, you know, where I get to the sponsored tweets. And one of the things I notice, and I don't have anything to back this up, but maybe Thomas Clark can back me up on this, is that more that a lot of those ads and promoted tweets are coming through more on mobile than the desktop platform, because that's where more people are using Twitter. They're using it through, you know, because I know that's one of the options with Facebook. I can say, do I want this to go to mobile versus desktop users and things like that. You know, one of the things that I'm curious to see if you notice also is that I heard that Twitter was supposed to be about conversations. And one, I didn't see a lot of conversing. I saw a lot of shouting. You know, just like with this, it's nice that Michelle is putting up this picture of Group Blackjack, but that doesn't seem very conversation based, you know. And this is where some of the conversations come to me, I see, and this is where I started to get a little bit more interested, is understanding what I'm looking at here. Is this person said, Twitter tip, drive traffic to website blog through thoughtful interaction and strategic sharing. Be relevant and conversational. Hashtag viral chat. And then David Vaughn, who I follow, has retweeted this, but he didn't just do a straight, oh, I'm so sorry. Who we got calling in here? I'm going to let you in here. Come on in. Yeah.
And we do have another open seat if anybody wants to call in.
Yeah, we do have. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. How are you?
I am good. How do you pronounce your name? Because I'm horrible at pronouncing names.
You can call me Mike.
Mike. Okay, that works for me.
Welcome.
Mike, welcome to the conversation here.
What's the conversation?
So the conversation that we're having today is, last week we went through Twitter, and we just, if you had just signed on to an account, how do you navigate Twitter? This week's conversation is great. I understand where my notifications are. I understand what they're trying to do in Moments. I understand where my feed is and my settings. This week we're going to that next step of, now what do I do that I'm on Twitter? And part of that conversation that we're starting with is trying to, whoops, okay. That's fine. Oh, calling back in. I think something's going buggy because I'm seeing a lot of people having to refresh today. I'm surprised that I haven't had to refresh.
No, I had to open in the larger tab because you were on the front page.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So basically where we're starting with is I want to try and get rid of some of the myths that are out there about Twitter, and some of the things that are holding a lot of people back from jumping into Twitter and using it as just a platform first, as a social platform, discovering what it has to offer, and then we can make the decision, is this something that we want to use for marketing? Because I think it's very difficult, especially with all the entrepreneurs out there. Our main audience is challenge course operators, zipline tour canopy operators that are saying, all right, I need to be on social media, but it's very hard to say, great, get on Twitter, when the people that are being asked to market have never been on Twitter before.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's, let's make sure, that's what last week and this week are about, is just Twitter. How do we interact with it? What are the ways that we see the benefits as an individual? Because if we understand that, then we can engage with clients in the long run. So that's what the conversation is. So please, do you, are you a would-be marketer at some point, or are you more of a consumer? Just, I love being on social media, or that's where do you come from with this?
Actually, I have an online business. I do SEO, online marketing, social marketing, mostly Facebook. I do affiliate marketing, web design, and stuff like that. Also, a bit of some photography, but not on the professional level because I don't like to work for photography. I like it too much to to make it stressful.
Yep.
And video, it comes naturally. Video
Very
editing
cool.
and filmmaking.
Make sure to throw any of your website, any places on social media.
No, it's for the Hispanic public, so
Okay.
it's Patrick Media, but it doesn't. Actually, maybe you'd be interested. Yeah, I have a how do you call it? A software. It's actually called a robot in the marketing industry that automates your Facebook posts. So that yeah, I think that's interesting. The only thing is that the software is in English, but I have the tutorials and the courses. They're made in Spanish because I'm selling it to a Hispano public.
No, please. The organization that we're both of us are volunteer for is an international organization. So I'm all about sharing resources. Plus, one of the questions that comes up a lot is, why should I bother having all of these followers on Facebook or all these on Twitter, especially when I'm looking at their profiles and they don't do what I do? The biggest answer to that is it's social networking. That, you never know who is going to follow you. That if I can provide a piece of content, even if it's something that I'm not immediately going to be using myself, doesn't mean that somebody that I follow or somebody that follows me doesn't know somebody that says, I know somebody that would really benefit from this. And I embed all the comments on my website also, so don't disappear after the blab. And applicable on my website too. So again, feel free to share any resources that you have. So are you using for any of your marketing outlets then Twitter at all?
I have it automated, so it posts automatically, but I don't necessarily use Twitter to market my products. I only use Facebook because I actually use Facebook to sell the tools of themselves, So the software that automates Facebook posts, it's kind of selling itself,
Cool.
So since I can't use it on Twitter, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. So, or maybe it would, but I'd have to do it manually, and that's what I don't like.
Ed, we're having trouble hearing you right now. The international sign of, hold on a second.
So are you guys in the same business? Or?
Yeah, we're both in the...
Testing 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
Great.
Challenge course and zipline tour and adventure park.
Is this a multi-level stuff, multi-level marketing business?
I am not in a marketing business. Ed, are you?
No. Well, so what I do is I work for a company that my 9 to 5 is I work for a company that builds zip lines, inspects them, designs them, and then I'm more on the training side. And one of the things that through the training that I've kind of come up through the past couple of years is helping train those businesses on how to use social media marketing. And what has become clear over the past year has been that the reason that people aren't using it so much is, and the training hasn't gone so well to start, is because people aren't aware. The people I'm training on, here's how you use Facebook, aren't even on Facebook as individuals yet, or Twitter or Instagram. So, and that's what this, and I presented at a conference about a month ago on an introduction of just here's what social media is and all that, and the general feedback I got from people was, we can't do this in an hour and a half. We need to break this down and see what each media outlet looks like. So that's what we're trying to do today, is just go a little more in depth in Twitter. So again, I was asking Alexis about it, and feel free to chime in on some of your experiences. And where I am with it is that what I found is the conversations, and some people on this blab may have heard me say this before, is I finally had the aha moment of what Twitter was when I jumped on during the political elections in 2012. And what I did was I had Twitter. I was following on my phone on Twitter as the presidential debates were trending. And that is when I understood that, okay, one of the basic parts of Twitter is a conversation. I have all of my followers, and anybody that chooses, so anybody publicly that chooses to follow me, I have their ear. So when presidential candidate number one says, is asked a question and they respond, I look to Twitter, and all of the backers of presidential candidate number one are saying what this person should have said was this, and then they have a link to a research study or an article. All the backers of presidential candidate number two is saying, why didn't he ask this question? And then I got to understand that what you can have is an online live conversation with people that are passionate around a topic at the same time, along with, hey, everybody, I'm standing in line to get a burrito right now, is up there just as much, which brings me to another point of Twitter, which is part of it is a personal outlet, which a lot of people call microblogging. Okay, some of you may have heard that term used before. In the way that, what can I tell the people? I have a stage. I am on my soapbox. I have 140 characters to announce to the world something. And so in the beginning, before the marketers got on and did a lot of stuff, that would be I'm eating dinner, right? You remember the old graphic. Facebook is I like coffee. Twitter is I'm drinking coffee right now. Instagram is here's a picture of me drinking coffee.
Yeah.
So looking at Twitter, I'm drinking coffee right now. When I originally heard that, I said, well, I don't know if that's really something that I want to be part of. I don't want to be sharing every second of my day. Yeah. And so I then backed off of it. And really, every Sunday when I'd watch a Bears game, I'd be on Twitter just because I wanted to learn the ins and outs of the game, and I felt that the armchair quarterbacks knew much more than the announcers were saying. So, and then that's where it ended. And I couldn't figure out how to market on it because what I was doing was using scheduling. What I was doing was scheduling my tweets, but being really upset that there wasn't any engagement. But I wasn't really doing anything to engage. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm just gonna just so nobody clicks on that because I think that is a spammy one. I apologize if it's not, but that's going away. So here's where I turned a corner with it, and that's what one of the things I want to talk about today is that once I started meeting people on Blab. Okay, so maybe I'm just in the audience and I hear Mike come on here and he's talking about that product. And that was just a part of one of the things that we were talking about. I can now go over, rather than trying to find his email, and I know it's easy, I try and encourage everybody to put their contact information in the chat, but since Blab is connected to Twitter, I can click on his profile, it can open up a Twitter page, and now I have a way that feels safe to me to communicate with Mike. Because I don't know Mike other than he was a face on a square for 40 minutes in my life, right? And maybe he was only on 10 minutes. But I can direct message him and say, that software you're talking about sounded completely intriguing. I work with the Latino population at a counseling agency I work with. And even though I just volunteer there once a week, I would love to pass on that information. And the other thing that knowing how social media works is I may not, even if he's handled himself as a professional on the Blab, I may not do that through a direct message. I may jump on Twitter and make that a post public because I want to, and it's not the social media marker as much as a connection and a social outlet where I can be social and say, I just met this person. He seems like he has a good thing. Hey, everybody, listen in on this conversation. This shouldn't be a private conversation. And then he can reply to the tweet. We can go back and forth. And now I'm having that conversation. I'm not worried about, am I providing good content to my followers? I'm not even there yet. I am there as a user of, I have found a way to communicate with somebody else in the world that has a similar interest, and we're having that as a public conversation because I think it's a cool conversation. Mm-hmm. And whenever I decide, when I'm on any outlet and it says, would you like to tweet this out? The question I ask is, number one, is this a public conversation? Number two, I do have people now that follow me, and I feel a certain responsibility that I want to provide some good stuff for them. And so those are the kind of the questions I ask before I tweet it. But basically, as a user, it's like, okay, is this a public conversation? Yes. And I want other people to know I'm having this conversation. Great, I'm going to tweet this out. That's how I choose whether or not to tweet. Okay, and that's something like on Instagram, now I'm drawing a blank of all the other apps. Anchor I'm using a lot now, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit later on today, especially Alexis. I really want to get you on Anchor.
Anchor. I haven't even heard of that.
Yeah, I've got 15 minutes at the end, and we're going to switch over to change the topic over to Anchor.
Cool.
But there are so many platforms that they say, or even on a website, do you want to tweet this out? And to me, it's like, is this a public conversation? Is this something that I want to shout from the rooftops of, hey, over here, look at this? If the answer is yes, great. That is something I'm going to put on as a user on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay? Then the third thing is conversations. So when I am following people through Blab now, and if you go and watch, I'm having conversations with a gentleman named David Vaughn. He's a social media marketer. I've seen him on Blabs. He is absolutely hilarious. I love his sense of humor. So whenever he makes a comment on Twitter, as a user, not from a social media and marketing point of view, I'm going to go in and I'm going to reply to what he has to say because I think he's hilarious. I think I'm hilarious, and I'm going to try and converse with that.
You are hilarious, Ed.
Thanks. Part of it is I'm putting the blinders on in that situation to say, yes, I'm aware it's public, but I also am talking with David right now. Okay, so that's some of the insight of how I use it as a user, and those are the ways that I think that the majority of people, and I forget this because I'm on Blab, I'm listening to podcasts on social media, I follow social media marketers on Twitter, and I forget that from time to time that it's not just a learning tool for social media marketers. Yeah. And that's why I'm trying to remember and go back and get from my personal account following the Muppets. Yeah, they're social media marketing also, but we talked about that last week. And I'm trying to follow David Tennant and Kevin Smith and other celebrities that I think have great content that I'm interested in, not because I want to buy their product, because I'm interested in the conversations they're having. And this is one of the things that why I'm doing this Blab for social media marketing for Challenge Course, and starting at the beginning is I want more Challenge Course people on these platforms, because not to sell to more people, because I want to have these conversations. They're a blast. To the point where that's why I said I learned Anchor the past 2 days. We're going to talk about it today because I want other people like me on Anchor to talk to and have conversations. I am on Twitter, and if I want to have a conversation about Challenge Course facilitation or experiential education, that's great. I got you, Alexis. I've got Mandy. Yeah, Michelle's on there. Chris Cavard's on there. We have some other people, but they aren't using the platform. They aren't checking the platform on it. They're not a user of the platform. Yeah. So I'm basically talking to an empty room at that point. Yeah. So that's where I begin with it. And now I want to take questions from other people on, again, before we get into the marketing side, what are other aspects that people are using Twitter personally from that I get joy from using Twitter as an individual like this. I love doing this on Twitter, or this is why Twitter is why I'm checking my phone first thing in the morning. Thanks, Mike, for stopping by. If you come back, great. If not, appreciate the time that you were here. Okay. All right. I can tend to stay away from that. So I'm going to move that for a moment. And here's my general rule of thumb too, and I'm not trying to be rude to anyone that's just got the egg, is that until you have a profile and a profile picture, I'm always going to lean towards that you could be trying to spam or troll me. So no offense. And if you want to type in the question, how do I get a profile picture on Blab? That is perfect. You are in the right place. I am more than happy to cover that as part of this also, because that's what we're here for, is to learn from the beginning. So questions for anybody. You can do /Q if you do the, here's the thing on Blab. If you do the /, that's by the question mark down by the shift key on a traditional desktop keyboard, you'll get a whole slew of commands, and then you do a Q after that and a space, and you ask a question. It highlights it for us up here on screen for us to be able to see it.
And that's what I'm here for.
and a bunch of Twitter accounts blab. Is it worthy? Oh, that is your question. Thank you for clarifying for me. No, absolutely not. And again, I'm starting off from if you are starting on any platform, do not buy any followers. Do not buy any. That's Facebook, Instagram. That is. Now, here's the deal. If you go back 5 or 10 years ago, and yes, he has a bunch of followers. The question is, okay, let me get into he has a bunch of followers. Is the example I give for one of the businesses I worked with their social media. We started growing an organic audience that was very interested in what we had to say. And this was on Facebook. We went from 12 people up to a push of getting quality users, and we had about 60 people. Whenever we would post on Facebook, we would have that post seen by about 45 to 50 people, which is huge if you think percentage-wise.
Yeah.
Then somebody emailed the office and said, I can sell you a bunch of likes. We bought into that. Okay. I use we to collectively because, it seemed like a good idea at the time. We then jumped up to 1,000 people. Well, the 1,000 people that we wound up buying, and again, this is 5 years ago, so there's been a lot of crackdowns on this and some other things going on. So do your research on anything you're going to buy, but I generally believe this is still the case, is those are people that have they have no interest in your message or who you are. So on Facebook, that has a thing called EdgeRank, which we'll talk about on another blab. Facebook is, yes, I agree. I'm going to get to that comment in a second. Facebook says, all right, great. You have 50 people that are interested out of 1,000. Well, you must not have anything good to say. Twitter is moving that direction also. Twitter has already announced that they're going to move to, they have the logarithm already written, and they're going to go like Facebook to a feed. It's coming. It's not here yet. If you're on the iPhone, on the mobile platform, it has started to roll out. There are settings. I can put the link if anybody's interested. Social Media Examiner did a blab on this 2 Fridays ago now, and they went through all of the step-by-step if you're interested in that and what's going on with that. So on Twitter, if I post something and I want, even as a user, to me, it's not about 10,000 people hearing this. It's about people that I want to be connected with actually are hearing what I have to say. So now I'm going to catch up on the comments. That's okay. From a marketing perspective, Twitter is a real-time informational, informal 20 seconds to gain interest from like-minded people to redirect to more valuable content or places. That I could not agree more. I'm going to star that comment. And also what I'm going to do, just so I can put it up so it's highlighted for all of us to see it, even though it's not my question. I'm going to do it this way. Let's see here. Oh, Twitter Blab is not announced the other day. They're doing a lot of updates to Blab, so maybe I can't do it. There we go. All right, that throws it there. This throws it here. No, I don't want to follow myself. I want to answer the question. So I want to highlight that just in case they've gotten to a point where they can put these in the replays. Most of the times it's not. But I think that's very important to remember, both as a user and especially as a marketer. They say the average lifetime of a tweet at the most is 20 minutes. And the informal 20 seconds, that's absolutely right. So I'm going to pop back over here. And again, I don't follow a lot of people because I try and follow people that I really want to hear what they have to say. But whoops, no, wrong. You're getting the infinity loop.
Oh, no.
There we go. All right. So when we started, I have not done a refresh. This is where we were. So in basically the 10 minutes I've been talking since we've been back there are 15 new tweets from people I follow.
Oh, okay? See, I have 37 new, and that's been in the last 3 minutes.
Right.
Which
so
is
again,
one of the reasons I'm not excited about being on Twitter.
Well, and also you have to look. If you look over here, it's cut off, I think, on my screen. Some of you might be able to see it. I'm following 184 people. Mm-hmm. Out of those 184, 35 of them are facilitators that don't tweet.
Yeah.
They're individuals that I've convinced maybe to come on Twitter and say, hey, you got to check out this platform. They set up, maybe they set up their account just to be on Blab, and they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And again, I try to be very stingy because I like the newsfeed of seeing everything. So I make sure I follow people that I want to hear something about. And if you're not giving me good content as an individual or as a business,
yeah,
I'm going to unfollow you because I can always go back and follow you again. And that's kind of my perspective on everything.
That's true.
Lance says automated bots posting regarding subject contents. And that's part of it too, is I've done it. I'm guilty of this. And I don't want to say guilty, is that for ACCT, I use Hootsuite and I set up tweets in advance.
Yeah.
It's an organization. We don't have a product to sell, and what I'm trying to do is just reach a few more people that are on the Twitter platform that aren't on other platforms that maybe will take the time to, number one, we have 3 or 4 followers that are really good about retweeting whatever we put up, they retweet it. Okay. The other thing about it is it's another place where you can find us. So from that standpoint, for me to tweet out a link to something that's industry specific, we're not selling anything, just kind of keeping that plate alive to let people know they can reach us. And also, I want people to know that if they direct message ACCT, I'm going to get that. Okay, there's 3 of us that monitor that account, and we're going to respond immediately. And that goes back to this 20-second concept, is that people expect, if you have a business, okay, user, trying to stay on the user. I was ticked off at an airline. I don't remember what airline it was, and they weren't telling me anything. And so I got on Twitter, and I tweeted I did a public tweet. What the heck is going on with flight so-and-so? We've been sitting on, waiting to board for 35 minutes. You made us board the plane early. Okay, it was much smaller than that because I only had 140 characters. But I said, this is my complaint. This is my question. What is going on? Okay, and they didn't respond in 10 minutes. I was using Twitter because I expected a response, because Twitter, if you're going to be on Twitter and somebody mentions you in a comment, I expect you as a business. Again, I'm talking as a consumer. 15 minutes they got in there and they said, hey, Ed, sorry for not, experiential Ed, sorry for not mentioning it back. We're investigating right now, and we want everybody to know that, this is not how we operate. Okay. Again, they're doing something that's customer service. Again, focusing for me, they've brought me down a little bit, but then I'm the same way that when the flight attendant comes up and says to me, hey, just wanted to let you know the reason that we're waiting is that we found out the one passenger that didn't board has special needs, and we're waiting for them to board, and we're giving them some extra time. I immediately was on Twitter and saying, hey, thanks, whoever, airline. So glad that you are about customer service, especially with those with special needs. Mm-hmm. And so I'll play the game both ways, right? That's me as a user. So now when I move over to that, I need to realize that's why I have it set up that my phone gets an alert anytime somebody direct messages ACCT or mentions us in a comment. Okay, mm-hmm. So that's almost step 1. If you're going to put yourself on a business on Twitter, people on this platform, and the more you do it, the more you're going to expect it as a user. People are going to expect some type of response. I know that now that I interact with Mandy more, not Mandy Moore, our friend Mandy, more often. If she doesn't respond in like an hour, I'm getting concerned and I text her, right? Because I'm expecting that back and forth, right? Yeah. Especially if it's not during business hours. I'm like, oh my God, what happened to her? But that is the culture of Twitter. The way that things move, we start to buy into that. Okay. And again, here somebody is saying that they just started with Blab. And again, I was mentioning Blab was my gateway drug to Twitter. Because I was going on a social media marketing Blab every Friday with this lady named come on in. Can you let them in? Yep, I don't even know what to click at the moment because it's all over the place. And I wanted to start to ask her questions in that outside the Blab, so I would start letting her know through Twitter. All right. I think we're letting you in and it's not working. Try and do a refresh. So refresh your browser, will all disappear, and then you'll be able to pop back in. 9 times out of 10, that's what works on here. So moving into just some of the basics then of marketing, that's where I would start, is after you set up your Twitter profile, after you have more than, can you try and let them in again? Mm-hmm. After you have your any platform, get more than your egg up there, get that background picture, and then set something up so that you can be notified. Oh, I'm so sorry. I want people, especially people that I've never met before. I love it when they join us. So I'm really sorry.
Sorry, man.
I would try to refresh one more time, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to say that we could chalk it up to Blab acting up on us this week.
We may be caught in the middle of some Blab updates. I think that's what Ed was saying earlier.
Yeah. So, whoops. All right. So this time, rather than you hanging up, I'm going to kick you out so that you can go ahead and do the refresh and come back in. So And again, just in the past couple of minutes, I've got 4 new tweets sitting here waiting for me.
Yeah.
Oh man, Tim Gillette is blabbing right now. I usually go and watch his blabs. He's a great guy to follow on Blab. Especially Tim is a great guy if you are doing oh, he's not doing. He's saying come on over to the other blab. But see, that to me is also Twitter. There it is. There's that 20-second interaction. It's great for ADD. You just boom, 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 go through it. And I'm going to turn that off now so I can focus over here on our blab. But that's one of the things is blab has been difficult at times this week. You're not alone. Yeah. I was so happy because I started right on time and I wanted to start 5 minutes early because what most hosts are finding is that you have to start the blab and then refresh the blab. And I know a couple hosts that have even gone as far as they're telling everybody about their blab and they're doing their blab live. But again, yeah, and you know what? I continually go back to what's written in the upper left-hand corner right up there, which says beta. I am so grateful for this platform that let them work out as many kinks out and let us play with it and report. And I'll send them a quick, and that's, again, what I use Twitter for. After the blab, I'm going to go and say, hey, we had some issues with, we had 2 different people that couldn't connect today. I was using Opera, not sure what they were using, for their browser, but that is another way that we can communicate. Now, looking at all the ways I use Twitter as a consumer, where I'm going to start my social media marketing, and again, I'm trying to stay away from social media marketing to social media presence, because I think that part of it is that establishing a presence. So on Twitter, I can go ahead, much like Blab, and I can set up the profile, and I can interact and never put anything up, and I'm starting to establish my my presence on a platform. And I've heard some other social media marketers talk about this on Blab when people are like, well, how do I blab for my business? And one of the common things I would say is, I hear them say is, you need to be on every single day. You don't have to be running your own blab every day, but you need to be showing up in like-minded people's blabs in order to let people know you exist. So if I'm, as a business on Twitter, retweeting other things in the industry. Now, again, I don't want, if these people are selling the same thing I am, I might think twice about retweeting those things because now I'm just being a marketer for somebody else. But one facilitator I follow, he gets the best articles of what's going on in the camping and outdoor field. Richard Louv, he's constantly posting interviews in that. I could be retweeting that as a business that works in the outdoors, and I'm not necessarily pushing people to other businesses. Plus, on top of it, there's more than enough business. All right, we're gonna make it work this time. I'm gonna let you in.
Yeah.
Except we're gonna have it work. I know we are.
It's still not working.
I'm sorry, man. If you could just put a comment of what browser you're using, because I will follow up with
Blab.
Yeah. So.
Hey,
sorry,
in that same topic that you were talking about of having a presence in a social media platform, I think it's more than just posting your own things or even retweeting or anything like that. It's about the interaction. So it's about being present.
Yes.
And yeah, and I think that is building up your presence on a social media platform.
Going back to the metaphor of conversation, imagine if you were having a conversation with somebody and in the middle of that conversation you walked away, and then you came back a day later and tried to pick up that conversation we left off. That's not going to work so well on Twitter. Because there is that expected interaction very quickly. You don't blab for your business, you blab to build relationships. Okay, another great one. Okay, and I'm going to go right here. What is your name, sir? First Dibs Mutual Media. Because that is a mouthful. I'm sorry if you mentioned Wayne. Thank you. Wayne, I think that you could, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, and you could say you don't tweet for your business, you tweet to build relationships. You don't post on Facebook to build your business, you build the relationships. I think that is one of the things that we have missed as marketers at some point. We made a turn and we forgot that social media is about social and about building relationships. And that's another thing that, I see a lot of experience in this room, and you guys probably follow Michael Selzner, Social Media Examiner. I listen to his podcast, or I try every single week. And that's one of the things he had a guest on. He was talking about traditional marketing and where we all missed the boat. And one of the things this guy, I can't remember who he had on.
Can you put his name in the comments so that we can find him on the podcast?
I might ask somebody else to do it. I will put in definitely Social Media Examiner. So if you Google that, you will find his stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And if somebody has his Blab channel, it's blab.im/Michael else. I can't remember his middle initial before Stelzner. But he had this person on that said one of the reasons he did well in social media marketing is he had been a salesperson before he was a social media marketer. And one of the things he could do is he could build a great following and relationship build on a social media outlet, but then turn around and do the follow-up. Okay. Their website, and you'll be able to find everything from there. They have 2 great podcasts. One is one they do multiple times a week. I don't know if they're up to daily or not, but it's 10-minute like little mini podcasts that you can get a piece of information, and then they have a weekly one that's an hour long. So both are, I've learned so much over the past 2 years, I'd say, since I started following them. Anyways, I'm going to reel it in a little bit here. So going back to Twitter, it's the same concept of start building your relationship. We talk a lot on all of this social media marketing about content marketing. And I've now heard the number move from 2080 to 2080 to 15, do math, Ed, 1585. Right, where 15% is some type of sales message, some type of this is a service I offer, not even a direct sales pitch, and then the rest of it is content that you're providing to other people. I need to follow Gary Vee. I have heard so much about him when it comes to Snapchat lately that he is tearing it up on there. I need to go and find some blabs that he's been in and some other stuff. Great. Cool. So one of the things now, for those watching the replay, because I know that I advertise this on my outlets to people that are just learning about social media, I take this kind of as advanced facilitation, right? Know who you're listening to. If you go and you know nothing, and you just tried to open up a Twitter account today, and you find a podcast that Michael Selzner is doing on how to get the best followers on Twitter, you might come out of that podcast a little overwhelmed. So I just want to warn people that are new to this that it is a great resource. But I think that if I would have started listening to him with knowing nothing about some of these platforms, I might have turned away from him because I would have walked out feeling, and I know I do this. My wife, who's usually sitting right next to me and does social media marketing, and she's about 3 years behind me. When I discovered Social Media Examiner, I'm like, you have to listen to this, and she'd come out of it overwhelmed. Like, I've got to do all of these things on Twitter now. It's like, no, you don't have to do these on Twitter. You have to you're already started on Facebook. Work on Facebook first. Let me find you a podcast he's talking about on Facebook because you've been using Facebook for a year or two now. And I think that works in any industry. Don't jump in the deep end of the pool. It's great to jump in the deep end pool if you've got the skills to doggy paddle and survive and maybe pick up some cool things you want to work up to. But don't forget to figure out those basics, because that's when you hear something like, all right, he mentioned that this works really well with a lot of followers. Next logical step must be, I need to find some place to buy followers. And that's why I'm saying slow down a little bit. Okay. All right. I think that I'm preaching to the choir a little bit on Twitter here. I'm going to open it up for one more basic question on Twitter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch gears because I want to talk a little bit about Anchor. And I'm going to start to transition that until I see any questions in here about basic Twitter. I'm going to copy the title here. And I think what I'm going to do is, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go off record because there's some other stuff I want to do. But since we are changing the topic, I want this to stay with the recording. So, but we're going to move to Anchor in just a second here. Going to go off record. So thank you guys for joining the conversation.
Yes,
even if you weren't asking questions, you helped me prime some questions and remember some things I wanted to talk about to those that are beginning on Twitter, please feel free to follow me, Experiential Ed, on every platform. I'm over on Twitter, and my phone's been blowing up, and I see I have 5 notifications, which I'm guessing means 3 of you followed me on Twitter. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You can follow me too, but
and yeah, follow both of us.
Much, but maybe I will.
But yeah, and what I find is the more people that are following me on Twitter, the more people, that's accountability that is making me be accountable to do something on Twitter now. Okay. Yes, agree. Thank you, Wayne. I should probably read that out loud for the replay. There are too many marketers who will appear pokey when an informed potential client sees the holes in their own social media. I agree. Get good before trying to sell yourself. And one of the things I tried to do at the beginning, Wayne, when I asked on a scale of 1 to 5, where are you with Twitter as a user? I put 3.5. If I had to answer that question before I started on Blab, I would have been at more of a 1 to 1.5. So again, I'm not here to say I know everything about Twitter. I appreciate the other experts in the room that we can turn to and bounce ideas off of. I want to be a resource for those that are trying to learn. So on that note, thank you, Alexis, for joining us. Thank you to everybody that was here, asked great questions. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording here.